Blessings, family. How are you on this, the things we do Thursday? Here we are, day 22, Proverbs 22. I'm going to commence today's challenge with, I guess you can call it clarification or definitely a counter distinction, but it's going to be focused on character. Legendary basketball coach John Wooden is quoted as saying, "Be more concerned with your character than you are your reputation, because your character is what you really are, but your reputation is merely what others think you are." Now, what I've learned from Proverbs 22 is how the wise build to protect their brand or their name. So if I were to give this a title, it would probably be something like How the Wise Curate and Cultivate the Character of Champions, or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to jump right into it, starting with verse 1. There's a lot of principles in Proverbs 22, but I just really wanted to focus on character. So, verse 1. A good name earned by honor. Let me start over. A good name earned by honorable behavior, godly wisdom, moral courage, and personal integrity is more desirable than great riches, and favor is better than silver and gold. Verse 3, this is a counter distinction here. I love that word. A prudent and farsighted person, or wise person, sees the evil of sin and hides himself from it. But the naive continue on and are punished by suffering the consequences of sin. My mom used to say when I was growing up, if you don't go looking for trouble, you won't find it. She also used to say, "Boy, you can't see no further than the end of your nose." What she was basically saying was that I lacked vision in some things. And then in some things, I lacked common sense. But then again, hey, I was a teenager. Anyway, verse 3, the footnote from the Passion Translation reads, "Wise people solve problems before they happen." And a lot of times, problems can be solved by avoiding trouble when you see it from afar off. But yeah, so with the prudent do, I guess you could say they protect their brand. And speaking of my mom, there's another one. Verse 6, it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, teaching him to seek God's wisdom and will for his abilities and talents. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it." And again, that's amplified. The Passion Translation reads, "Dedicate your children to God and point them in the way that they should go, and the values they've learned from you will be with them for life." The footnote for that says, "Train them in the direction they are best suited to go." Some Jewish scholars teach this means understanding your children's talents and then seeing that they go into that field. Years ago, I was in my 20s raising my sons, and it's two authors in particular, books that I read a lot from. Chuck Swindoll was one, and the other was John MacArthur. And there's another one that was a Christian psychologist. But anyway, they talked about children having this scripture in general, and specifically saying that training up means you got to see their child's bent, what they lean towards, what their gift or their talent or ability is, and then cultivate or put them in projects, put them in things that will cultivate those gifts and talents in them. So if you see at an early age they're musically inclined, get them involved in instruments or music. Or I just heard a story a few weeks ago from a friend of mine who was saying how what I think it was their nephew, it seemed like they would always break their toys on Christmas or whatever, but they would also always take them apart, but always put them back together. And he grew up to be and still is a mechanic. Different things like that, whether it's arts, science, whatever. And if you see that in them, put them in and read them books or get them books or put them in classes and training in those areas. And what this means, and getting ahead of myself. What this means, in addition to training them to walk wisely in the ways and the will of God, is that if you see them, whether it's a child or a grandchild, building or organizing things with their toys, cultivate those gifts and talents in them. Because let's face it, everybody can't be a rapper or an athlete. We need architects and scientists and doctors and lawyers and stuff like that, authors and teachers. Anyway, also building or protect. Another thing I noticed when I was reading verse 6 is that building or protecting a brand, or developing and protecting your reputation, it begins in childhood. I remember as a boy, again, hearing from my mom saying, "Boy, you better not go out here and embarrass this family." Anyway. Verse 29. My sister too, and I know she's probably watching now or later. Verse 29. My sister would say, "Don't you go out here and embarrass the family." Anyway, verse 29. Do you see a man skillful and experienced in his work? He will stand in honor before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. That's the Amplified. The Passion Translation reads, as for those who are skilled in their work, they will be recognized and invited to serve kings rather than regular folks. That's the Voice translation. So real quickly, 10 observations I have as far as how the wise build and protect their brand, or how they cultivate and curate character, the character of champions. They would be honor, humility, the fear of the Lord, sensibility, or as my mom would say, common sense, teachability, coachability, generosity. Another thing, they're gracious. They respect and retain the wise teaching that they've received. That can be found in verse 17 and 18. Their confidence is in the Lord and not just in their skills or their talents or abilities. And lastly, there are more, but this is the last of my list. They strive for and operate in excellence. In other words, they take pride in their work. That's verse 29. So, day 22, Proverbs 22. That's it for the day. God bless you. And you'll see me tomorrow. God bless.